Hi, and welcome to a scenic Normandy road trip from Bayeux to Dives-sur-Mer, an indirect route to capture some history as we go. This trip, as always, starts at the Eurotunnel. What's different this time is that we're in our new Polestar 2 EV. We make the 265-mile journey from home to Bayeux with a couple of charging stops as we're being cautious. On this segment from Bayeux to Dives-sur-Mer, we could take the direct route of around 35 miles, but we'll be covering 113 miles, and we'll be taking in Cerisy-la-Forêt, Villers Bocage, Clécy, Falaise, before finally arriving at Dives-sur-Mer. So let's buckle up and hit the road. We're leaving our hotel in Bayeux, and if you saw our video on yesterday's memorial road trip, all I can say is, oh, what a difference a day makes. Don't worry if you missed that, or indeed our stay in Bayeux. I'll pop both of those videos up at the end. As is the norm with my videos, any points of interest I'll mention, like say Visit Normandy, the links will be included in the description. So if you want more information, it'll be there for you. We're leaving central Bayeux at around 8:30 on a Wednesday morning. And yes, it is this quiet. It'll be around 5.5 hours before we reach Dives-sur-Mer, so I've sped up the footage a little, but hopefully you'll still get a taste of Normandy. As I mentioned, this is a trip in our new EV, in fact our first international one, so we're still learning about charging. And in this video there will be a couple of failures, a surprise or two, and I will let my alter ego, the E-Vegan, have a word or two, but not too much. What I will say is we're leaving here with around 85% charge, so we'll have a range of around 270 miles, so actually there's no need to charge at all. Now, back to the route, and I think it's nearly all D roads or departmental roads, and these can range from lovely wide open roads like this, but they can become smaller at times, and maybe not so well maintained. All forms of traffic will use them, again, as we'll see later. All I have to say is, breathe in. The N roads, or routes nationales, are the next level, and they connect the larger towns and cities. They were the precursors to the A roads, or autoroutes. These often have a toll segment and can work out costly, but they are the quickest way to get from A to B. On the toll sections, they're generally very quiet. Set your cruise at the speed limit and you're eating up the miles. But the aim of today's trip is to travel at a much slower pace, with the primary goal to head to Falaise, the birthplace of one William the Conqueror. We aim to get to our accommodation at Dives-sur-Mer at around 3 PM, so we have plenty of time to explore the Normandy countryside. And we're heading towards our first destination of Cerisy-la-Forêt, a village with an ancient heritage. Thought to date back to Iron Age times, it certainly had a Roman fort to protect the Roman road that ran through it. We'll be travelling along some roads later in the trip that will follow those historic routes. You'll see what I mean. However, the reason we have decided to pop in is to check out the Abbaye Saint-Vigor, which is at the far end of town. Now let's park up and take a look. The Abbey was founded in 1032 by the Duke of Normandy, Robert the Magnificent. However, it was built on the site of an earlier abbey from the 6th century. From the 12th century, the abbey's power and importance began to grow, and over the years hosted several French kings. This earned it the status of a royal abbey, and so came under the protection of the King of France. This all helped Cerisy, to use its informal name, to become a thriving medieval market town. However, today it's a much quieter place, with a population of around 1,000. In 1793 that was over 2,100. I think life in the village would have been even more tumultuous during the 100 Years' War. In 1418 the abbey was ceded to King Henry V of England and stayed under British control until 1450, when the French regained Normandy. The abbey slipped into a decline, and then the monks left in the French Revolution, and it became the parish church of Cerisy. The Abbey Church was classified as a historic monument in 1840, the rest of the abbey in 1938. We've had a little look around, and almost as if on cue, a little 2CV pulls past to remind us we're on a French road trip. So leaving the car park, we head back through Cerisy, and our route is now going to take us via Villers Bocage. Once out of town, I think we can deduce we're following one of those Roman roads. It's straight and heads as far as the eye can see. As we're heading through Villers Bocage, I may as well stop, have a coffee and perhaps a cheeky little patisserie. Now the car doesn't need a charge, we'll be roughly at 73% when we get there. However, one of the things I learned whilst researching owning an EV is, why not charge whilst you're doing something else? That makes sense, right? I don't need to be there whilst recharging, unlike a regular fuel car, so I scan for a charger at my stopover. And I find one. Cafe nearby, all good. Anyway, a few miles to go and we meet the inevitable. A small group of cyclists enjoying the Normandy countryside. Normal rules apply, slow down and pass them, leaving as much space as possible. Do you remember I mentioned D roads at the beginning? This is one of the smaller ones. And do you remember I said breathe in? Well, here goes. Honestly, I slowed down, but I don't think he was taking any hostages. And he won't be the last. See? The point is, you never know what you may come across, and there can be a surprise around every corner. Although I never expected a jogger with a donkey and a dog. I guess why not? The good news is we've arrived at Villers Bocage, although it's not made too easy. All we have to do is find our charger, a piece of cake. I should mention I'm using Octopus's Electroverse app and card. That gives me access to a vast amount of chargers. And talking of chargers, here we are. It's a 50 kilowatt DC charger, and I really don't need it that powerful, which is handy because we couldn't get it to work. One for the naysayers, I guess. And this episode probably wasted 10 to 15 minutes of our time. But hey, there's another one at the other end of town. So off we toddle, looking for a nice cafe or patisserie en route. And here we have it, just around the corner, next to the tourist office. Surely better luck this time. This is a lower powered AC charger, so I need my cable. And again, a few minutes of wasted time and no luck. So I say Villers Bocage is not for us. And we're going to head to our next destination, Clécy. Don't worry, the cable's in the boot. I deliberately left these two failures in the edit because I think it's best to be truthful about touring with an EV. It's not all roses, and this is just our first trip. However, by the time you see this, we will have completed another road trip through France later in 2024. We covered over 2,200 miles on that one and hit the French Riviera. We're finalising the plans on our 2025 trip and have booked a hotel for a further trip in 2026. So do I believe an EV is an effective tourer? Well, I think you have our answer. Now, I'd like a coffee and a cake, so we spotted a couple of chargers in Les Monts, so let's check them out. At the end of the car park, has somebody beaten us to it? Nope, fortunately there's two bays. And I suspect these guys are new to EVs. So let's get ourselves fed and watered. And now we have a different type of failure. We couldn't find a decent cafe or patisserie. Well, in that 18 minutes, two things have happened. We pulled 3.14 kilowatt hours of electricity at the cost of £1.31. That's about 4% charge or 12 miles. And the two guys have left. I have a feeling they were just doing a little test charge. So onwards towards Clécy, and I should mention we're now in the Suisse Normande, or Normandy, Switzerland. Now please don't expect a Mont Blanc anytime soon, but the region does have a bit more of a rugged landscape, where it's a touch more hilly around the Orne Valley, and it's popular with rock climbers, hikers, kayakers, cyclists. In fact, anyone wanting to get closer to nature. And at its heart, you'll find Clécy. The area has been created by the erosion of the Armorican Massif by the River Rhône. That creates the dramatic landscape. However, I have to be honest, our route skirts around it, apart from our detour to Clécy for that well-earned coffee. There is a charger in town, but I'm not holding out any hopes. As we make our way there, the village seems pretty enough. There's a village square that's just a 2-minute walk from the charger. As we pass the Église Saint-Pierre de Clécy, we know we must be close. And here's the charging station. We're at 71%, so this isn't necessary, but we're here now. In the words of Ken Dodd, by Jove, everything is working. So let's explore. As we step outside, it feels nice, clean and peaceful. We stumble across a piece by the French-based Ghanaian artist Joe Big Big. But coffee is calling, and in no time we pass the mayor's office or town hall, and we then arrive at the village square. Much to our delight, there's a boulangerie-patisserie serving coffee too. Mission accomplished. We only spent a short time here, but you felt you could stay longer. The tourist office is packed with activities, too many to list, but of course there'll be a link in the description. Time to take a slow stroll back to the car and reflect on how different today's little trip is from yesterday's, where we visited some D-Day memorial sites. It's easy to pack a lot into a road trip without really feeling like you're trying too hard. So back to the car, and we've charged for 1 hour and 20 minutes, and we've drawn 13.38 kilowatt hours of charge at a cost of £5.19. That's added around 14% or 44 miles of range, and we're back to the 85% where we started the day. As we wend our way out of Clécy, we pick up the main D road, and as I said, we haven't seen the best of the landscape, but hopefully as we make our way to Falaise, we'll enjoy a few treats along the way. As I mentioned earlier, it's clear these were Roman roads. As we continue to meander through the Suisse Normande, never far from the River Rhône, we pass through Pont d'Oily, another activities hotspot, especially for those who enjoy kayaking. And if we wanted to spot a lunch, this would have made a good choice. Remember the golden rules for eating while touring. If you want something from a boulangerie-patisserie, say a lovely baguette, or something sweet, then make sure you do that before 12:30. I know it seems strange to us, but in the smaller towns and villages that is often the case. However, if you want a little picnic, and you should really try it sometime, it's just perfect. Although, through experience, you'll learn to avoid some of the chains because they can be a bit average. And remember regionality. Here we're in the Calvados region, so apples in tarts, pastries. We had freshly pressed apple juices at the stop in Clécy. And of course, Normandy has camembert, as well as a range of other fine cheeses. Now, if you want more of a bistro restaurant vibe, then 12:30 to 1:30 is your window. You're probably going to be out of luck after 2 p.m. That's why when we plan our arrival time, if we're going to be around, say, 2 p.m, then we try to make sure we grab a bite en route. I hope all that talk of food hasn't made you hungry. Anyway, we're now arriving at Falaise. Once again, we found a charger, and I guess we're going to be here for an hour, so why not? And I guess I should explain why we put Falaise on today's route. Well, it's the birthplace of one William the Conqueror, and it links with why we're staying at Dives-sur-Mer, but more of that later. It also has a vital role to play in the Battle of Normandy after D-Day in 1944. Now let's get parked up and charging. All done, no problems. so seismic events in English and Scottish history both happened here. This castle, to give it its proper name, the Château de Falaise, holds the key. However, we'll get back to that shortly. Firstly, a brief look around the centre of town. And in front of the town is the biggest clue, a statue of William the Conqueror on horseback, better known as William the Conqueror. Born in this city in 1027 or 1028, the only but illegitimate son of Robert I, Duke of Normandy. Next to the statue is the Memorial de Falaise, a memorial to civilian casualties of war. Outside is a piece called War is Hell by the French graffiti artist Jeff Aerosol. Innocent faces stencilled on a Sherman tank. We have a limited print by the artist, so we recognised it immediately. The museum memorial recognises the 15,000 to 20,000 civilians killed in the Battle of Normandy, with a significant number coming from the Battle of Villers Bocage, where the Germans were decisively beaten, and that defeat opened the road to the liberation of Paris. We have decided that Falaise may become a future stopover on another tour of Normandy. We did it with Bayeux. We had visited the city a few times before, but it was on this trip we actually stayed. This allows us to take our time to enjoy the experience, so we'll skip the museum and the full castle tour for our next visit. We can still explore the castle grounds, so let's head up to the high ground. It's strange this castle looks so familiar, but I guess it would. Most ancient castles in England were built after the Norman conquest, so it's no surprise this shares traits with our own Rochester Castle that's just a few miles from home. Now, I mentioned its links to Scottish history, and that's the Treaty of Falaise, signed in 1174. At the time, this region was under the control of the Plantagenet King of England, Henry II. Henry's forces had captured William I, King of the Scots, in 1174 at the Battle of Alnwick, and transported him to Falaise, where he was forced to sign the treaty. This gave Henry II power over him and a degree of English control over Scotland. Fortunately for Scotland, this was annulled in 1189 by Henry's successor, Richard I, or Richard the Lionheart. Through time, the castle has been owned under several dynasties, before falling into disrepair in the 17th century. In 1840, the castle was recognised as a national monument, and a programme of works undertaken to restore it. Unsurprisingly, it was damaged in World War II during the battle for the Villers Bocage, but once again it has been repaired. We've enjoyed our brief look at Falaise, and we'll definitely be back. But for now it's time to return to the car and continue our journey. And now a little mystery. We return to the car, unplugged, and away we go. What usually happens is after a few minutes I get a receipt of all the details of how much I pulled, like this one from Clécy. However, this experience appears to be free. Well, that's nice. As a point of reference, we've just passed through the rest of Falaise. And back to using Electroverse. Using the Apple Card is really easy, and as you can see, gives you great reporting. Plus, we receive free credits when we bought the car, so this trip isn't costing us anything in charging. When I produce the final video of this road trip, I will include the full charges versus an estimate of the cost in our petrol cars. Anyway, we're closing in on Dives-sur-Mer, probably a place that you haven't heard of, so why visit? Well, we're following up on the story of William the Conqueror. It's where he set sail from in late September 1066 to embark upon his Norman conquest of England. It's a quiet little town with a historic centre, and within walking distance is Carbourg, a Norman seaside resort born out of the Belle Epoque, that period in French history free from war from 1871 till, well, you guess. Dives and Carbourg will be the next two videos in this adventure, but I will give you a sneak peek at the end of this too. I guess I haven't mentioned the standard notices, you know, the ones about if you're enjoying this video. Well, if you are, why not subscribe and hit that notification bell? Oh, and don't forget to like. We all know we live in a world powered by algorithms. Also, if you have time, drop me a comment. Let me know you're enjoying the video. If there's more you'd like to know. I love talking about EVs and dispelling the myths about them, and being honest about the pitfalls too. But I really love travelling, constantly learning, putting more pieces into my jigsaw of life. And if you have any feedback on the video, I'd love to hear that. Is the high-speed action okay? Would you like less narration? Let me know in the comment box below. As I said at the beginning, this is a Wednesday in July, and even with the editing, it hasn't been that busy. And I think we've been through some wonderful little towns and villages, and we've dissected Normandy's route to Cidre. And if you want to see how this channel has changed, check out an early video from 2017 on the route to Cidre. And for reference, I'm driving a 4.2 litre V8 Audi, so I've changed too. We've crisscrossed this landscape many times, and I never tire of the places I visit and the new places we discover. I hope that this video and others that surround it inspire you or bring back memories from past travels. It's one of the benefits I get from this channel, knowing somebody has had a great time by trying something new. We are now closing in on Dives-sur-Mer, and our hotel is next to the River Dives, which separates it from Carbourg. We're here for 2 nights, but the car will be rested tomorrow. Except there's a little close by with a high-powered charger. So tomorrow we'll put it on charge while we pick up a few French favourites, maybe a bottle of wine or 2, whilst the car is set for the journey home. When we booked the hotel, it didn't have any EV chargers, but on the day we turned up, 6 were being installed. And if we visited today, we could get a charge from 10 to 100% for around about €31, which at motorway speeds would give us a range of around 270 miles. Anyway, we've arrived now, so let's park up and have a quick look at Dives and Carbourg. This is the River Dives, and to the east is the historic Dives-sur-Mer, a quiet, quaint place to explore. To the west is Carbourg, something very different but equally interesting to explore. Anyway, that really was the taster peeks at our next 2 destinations. Make sure you don't miss them. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and happy travels.